go.
Yeah, right.
No? Round of applause. Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. Hey, everyone. My name is Sydney Lai.
All right, I'm Amin. I'm a core contributor for the Rally ecosystem DAO.
And so today, what we're going to be talking about is exploring and understanding how social tokens are created, specifically in one of the leading protocols that is leading the path for social tokens. I think just for some pretext and then going into really quick intros, is that social tokens have been around long before content creators and influencers have been. If you look at the 80s, David Bowie himself had created the David Bowie bonds. I don't know if anyone remembers, but that guy, thank you, sir. I don't, yeah, I love that. I was like, I haven't listened to David Bowie's music, but I know he exists. Or did he die?
Yeah,
He did.
Yeah, he did.
But you know what's not dead? His music lives on, and his David Bowie bonds, could have continued. But anyways, I'm going on tangent. But the point that I was trying to make is that this concept of social tokens have been around, and David Bowie, when he had paired with an investment firm, they were building the David Bowie bonds to tie his success to dividend generating bonds as an example. So just wanted to put that out there. And a really quick intro: my name is Sydney Lai, and I am part of Griffin Gaming Partners. We are a venture fund, the largest fund dedicated to gaming and the metaverse specifically. And so, with that, just wanted to explore the conversations of social tokens, NFTs, and building on the Rally ecosystem. I mean,
All right, no worries. For us, essentially, I can speak myself essentially for the ecosystem DAO, and where we're going about with the Rally protocol is essentially an engage to earn mechanism, and for it helping to bootstrap liquidity for developers so that they can tokens can essentially be given real time market value in the space. And essentially, we do that with allowing social token providers to pool together to liquidity pools and then be able to distribute community rewards to the token holders of those apps and whatever it was being entailed at the moment.
yeah. So, so I think a question out there: who has heard of the Rally ecosystem? Okay. So, several of you. Um, so when it comes to social tokens and entering into the DeFi space as well. Can you share a little bit more about how the structures are built, are created? What are the associations or foundations out there? Because usually, when it comes to building on social, when it comes to building out social token infrastructure, there is typically like a grants process. There is typically a foundation, and like where do people usually go to be able to build this out?
Absolutely. So, just to give like a little bit of a backtrack, just a couple months, a while back in last fall, Kevin Chow, the co-founder for Rally, he essentially placed a governance protocol that would help separate Rally as being a single organization to being split up into 5 different entities. So we essentially have the network association that is in charge of the core blockchain technology, as well as overseeing the smart contract documentation both on Ethereum and now Solana, which I will get to that event later in the discussion. Then we have the Rally being separate as a social token platform. We have also the Unite, which will be a social token platform built for the Asian markets. Then we established the ecosystem DAO to be as a point of contact for developers and creators to be able to contribute and build through the ecosystem through the grants on the protocol. And then last but not least, then we have Super Layer Labs on the top end. And essentially, it's going to be a venture studio built for building consumer crypto apps for mainstream use. So they actually just raised a $25 million seed round from some very high notable investors: Gary Vaynerchuk, Mark Andreessen, Chris Dixon, some of the people you may know of, and they believe in utilizing the idea of distributing ownership of the protocol being built on that end. And first and foremost, as for developers wanting to be getting into the protocol, to be able to build and contribute on the protocol, we actually have 3 different types of grants actually. So starting with the ecosystem grant, we have grants specifically focused towards dev tooling, doing newsletters, especially doing research for understanding things with like token bonding curves, being able to pool social tokens into different pools and be able to get community rewards on that front. That's another thing that we would go over. And then we have different tiers of grants, anywhere from rapid grants, micros, and macros. So essentially anything between 5,000 in Rally all the way up to 1 million, depending on the scope of the work. And we essentially have a voting process through our reviewers. We have 7 people total that are helping to contribute and review projects that apply for these grants. And we essentially do 3 out of 7s for the smaller ones, 5 out of 7 for the macro range, and then anything for 50,000 to 1 million, we essentially have we do a community vote through Snapshot and allow the token holders to vote on and on confidence on for the people that want to contribute and build on the platforms. And anything above 1 million rally tokens, we have the network association that comes into play, and that is the main contributors is going to be through developers. So essentially looking to help on dev tooling, on being able to bridge and integrate with other different Web3 protocols. And we have essentially that. And then the tier up is like whatever like unique consumer use cases, super layer will come into play. And their role is essentially coming in and being able to accelerate what will be a build that could be anywhere between 2 to 3 years, help consolidate all those resources and help accelerate development to up to 6 months and get it up to market. Yeah, in a very short amount of time.
Mm.
Oh, like there so that there's actually a really cool project that they just released that or they actually discussed it being able to bridge an NFT marketplace that is like Robinhood meeting DraftKings. So if people can come and contribute and bet on a pool for like betting on NFT, and depending on whatever event you're betting on, that pool can essentially bet into and buy the NFT and own that collectively speaking. So like that's one of the like the use cases that are like that are is being built on that front. But it all depend. There's there any contributor can come in and be able to build and submit whatever thing that they want to contribute to the ecosystem on that front.
Oh wow. Okay, so I've raised so many
I
questions.
know that's sorry.
So no,
It was a good question
that
though.
was a rundown. So you had just mentioned there is also NFT. There's NFT pairings.
Yeah.
When oftentimes we think of social tokens, sometimes you're looking at creators and they're either going down the NFT route where they're dropping their own NFT collection, or they're looking at the documentation. Do I go the social token route? I would love to hear your thoughts in terms of um, what what are the different pathways of creators either going down the NFT route or the social token route? Which one should they consider? What is that? What does that path and journey look like, and why the two difference?
Oh yeah, no worries. So in terms of like being for creators, we do have like that. This is where Rally comes into play and be able to help like create specific utility for these tokens based on what other for specific activities, or being able to like at least have is to have quality control over what type of experiences users will have with holding that token, perhaps. And there is a creator developer grant available for that through Rally's social token platform that creators can be able to use and to be able to upload, help reference NFTs or be able to contribute to development on that front.
Yeah. And then you had also mentioned
Yes.
there's Solana. There was like a Solana bridge, I think you said earlier. Like,
Yes.
yeah, because like right now there's a lot of both gaming NFT collections being launched on Solana. So what does that look like right now with Solana and Rally?
So right now, just actually yesterday, the rally just announced the network association announced that they have uploaded, they activated pools on Solana just yesterday. So any person that wanted to be able to get on Rally could also that was originally just on Ethereum can initially now go on Solana and be able to do a swap from Solana tokens into Rally's side chain. And on top and through Orca, anyone can take those tokens and be able to pull into those liquidity pools and get community rewards on that front as well. And that can be paired with other social tokens that end up being that get end up being paired with or using or pairing it with other apps that are being built through super layers. So there would be multiple different types of ways how users of those communities can contribute their liquidity to the growth of each of those those economies going forward.
And then when it comes to Solana, I think that Solana had launched. I don't remember. It was like 80. I think they had 80 $80 million fund dedicated solely to onboarding the next generation of like gaming, NFTs, metaverse creators. So then my question here is like, what are some of the challenges of building social tokens just in the ecosystem in general right now? So we saw the rise of NFTs. DAOs are kind of around. DAOs are around now. What are some of the challenges of building social tokens?
I think the like he was talking about with David Bowie being able to do how he has done bonds for his fan base. I think the concept is still very novel. Like it hasn't hit the network effect as NFTs has done so far. Just the idea of having ownership or community ownership of any asset that is built on using tokens on that front. I think it's just getting a lot more people to get understanding the general gists on the culture behind like fan bases. Like we already have fan clubs already, but being able to transform and bridge those experiences that we already have, like just because of being a fan of your favorite band, and or being part of a community that you're really enclosed with, and be able to expand the experiences far beyond borders in that sense, not having to being able to duplicate and have shared experiences across physical realms in that realm. So it's I think just as we get more people onboarded with like in the NFT space and understand the different nuances that come along with that space, then social tokens I feel like it can be a much more better bridge to have better nuanced experiences for whatever communities that you really want to hang with, and be able to contribute to the overall growth of that ecosystem per se.
Mm. I also think one of the challenges that I've seen is that, like what you just described, is that a lot of these social tokens are being used in place of fiat. Sometimes a lot of these social tokens are being used in place of other forms of currencies, right? And so what is the aspect of actually bringing utility into the social tokens, sometimes beyond just having it as a form of payment or a replacement of Patreon, as an example? What would utility to social tokens look like?
Utility to me, it's going to be again going back to like quality control and essentially be using it as a means of like as a pass. It's like if you, is this is like part of like being involved with like being having skin in the game with actually wanting to contribute back to the community just simply by participating in that ecosystem. So in the gist for me on that front, like having utility, it means like because of owning that token within that community, you have access to have first dibs with potentially working on you can have access to other projects that other communities are building upon, and essentially collaborate if I want to work with one DAO just because of having a token on for one token of that social token on that particular front. I'll have a chance to like engage and be able to funnel with that community as well. So there's those like utility can be utilized particularly especially with communities that have very similar cultures and have like very similar shared visions in terms of how they want to engage activities in that similar environment. So like that's why I take into account where additional utility you can be built around in the near in the short and also the midterm.
Mm. And so when you talk about utility, and if you look at the Rally.network white paper itself, I think oftentimes people misunderstand this as the framework to build social tokens. But as you can see, as you just mentioned, like Rally is also doing interoperability with other chains such as Solana. So when you look at the white paper for Rally, it's about an engage mechanism. So it's an
Yes,
engagement mechanism, right? Like
correct.
engage to
And
earn.
I actually have a slide on the back end.
Oh, there's a PowerPoint
There's a
presentation.
yeah.
This is a
Oh no, there's just one. This is just an ecosystem slide on the back end.
Is it? Do we? Is there a button? Do we push it?
They made the people in the
Dudes in the
back have
back. Do you like
yeah. There's like one other
the
slide that
guy with
actually
the black shirt
shows.
in the back looking at the screen? Probably. Do you like? I don't know. Is this like a
Yeah.
presentation? We're just spitballing
No,
here.
we're
I
just
mean,
spitballing, but like we
like,
have we have a diagram that actually shows. Yep,
there
that's
you
it right here.
go. Okay, that's
Yeah.
we probably should
So
have led with that one.
yeah, no,
Well,
this
so then
works.
what is Rally like? The different branches, like what are they building out and how is it working? Because you mentioned like
Yeah.
One of them is Unite. I don't even. Oh, there it is.
Yep.
And so this is, I guess, this is specifically for the APAC region.
Correct.
And so for those who may or may not be familiar, when you have different types of token frameworks, you have different types of regulations, right? You have different regulatory frameworks, and so like Unite is tapping into specifically the Asian markets. Oh my god, I just had an idea. Someone should like put a bunch of K-pop bands on there. That's legit. Like that's money right there. And so yeah. So what are the different organizations building out? What are they responsible for? I know you kind of touched on it,
Yes.
kind of high level.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And why the need for all this fragmentation?
I think, yeah, that's a good question on the fragmentation. So again, going back to like the governance form from a few months back, is it's essentially being able to decentralize the different roles and responsibilities, how each entity built on the protocol. Each entity is focusing with different stakeholders, but also being able to support the ongoing growth on right here. So right at the beginning, we have Ethereum and Solana integration that is essentially building on the protocol, and essentially the protocol bridge is essentially going on a separate side chain for I don't know and to make it as non-technical as possible. It's being able to build whatever use case from both chains and integrate that on a side chain where either one of those platforms can utilize the best of features on either network. And the network association comes in play to help mitigate the core technology and being able to bridge the functions and the smart contract documentation for any of the developers who want to be able to build whatever function they want to see fit for the experience. And then being on the separate side chain, being each project, that's a social that being Rally being the social token platform, Unite being the for the Asian markets, and then for Super Layer, this is going to be more about separate entities, separate projects that Super Layer is going to oversee with themselves, and being able to provide additional funding and resources to consolidate development on Rally's protocol. Yeah. So like that's essentially the whole ecosystem. And then we have the ecosystem down last but not least, which I'm the core contributor on right now, is being able to be a point of contact for all the awareness to help aggregate the grant opportunities that we have as well, and helping to help consolidate all the development docs to help developers get started, and helping creators have a starting point on learning where they can be able to start building out their token architecture and serve their community in that realm.
So from what I understand, to summarize, it sounds like for the DAO itself, it funds basically, it could be technical or non-technical community contributors who want to be able to tap into the treasury and build within the social token or engage to earn mechanism. It doesn't have to be a social token. If you are looking for folks to engage in X, Y, and Z project, that is for the community grants. Superlayer does more of like special projects and whatnot. All right.
Correct.
I think that's really thorough. I would love to open up to this stage any questions or the audience.
Yeah, we got a few minutes. Wow, did we actually?
This guy's thinking.
Did everyone actually understand? Did everyone comprehend?
The guy in the dystopia shirt. I got you, boo. Ooh, that's a really good one. So there's kind of two parts to the question. So the first part of the question is what? No, I already forgot. Sorry, dude. The standard, gotcha. Yeah, that's a great question. I'm happy to tag
Yeah,
team.
so I mean, the whole purpose of like using Rally, like it's essentially being more general purpose use, and the engage to earn mechanism is essentially that communities can contribute liquidity to whatever project that they can, and majority of those community rewards will go to those users. So they have an 8-year, they purposely built an 8-year release fund for all like for tokens being released in the network, and the majority of those rewards are literally going towards the users rather than simply being the team or the early ventures. So the whole thing is essentially for any person that wants to build and contribute, and especially whether it's on the NFT front or social token front, any contributor can be able to net those rewards personally and integrate and help further collectively build on the ecosystem per se.
Mike, do you know of the celebrities or social folks, what is like the TLV? What is the current
Oh
even
yeah,
the holdings like I don't
absolutely.
yeah, you
Yeah.
probably
So
know this better.
the stats right now is I actually looked at the report on just from this month. We have 280 over 280 social tokens already built out, and 59% of those creators that have built social tokens already have separate economies worth over $100,000 in value in TVL, total locked value, and then 10% of those creators on top of that have already built an economy that's over $1 million, and that's with little to no marketing at all on their front.
Yeah. I think, just to on your question of like are they trying to be the standard or like the network standard? The best way I like to explain this from an analogy standpoint is that if you look at Rally, the token itself, it it doesn't have a typical utility that you would see. For example, a really good token design is actually Helium. Helium, for those who have heard of it, it's broadband, etc. So that's actually a really, really good utility design. But when it comes to Rally, the analogy that I use, and this is not their analogy, this is the analogy that I use, is that it is designed very similar to Yearn's token. Yearn's token doesn't have a utility. It is a tool. It is a token that is used for various token pairings in liquidity pools for other DeFi tokens. So for Rally itself, it does pretty much two functions. Number one is that it can be paired in a pool with all the other social tokens launched on the network. Um, it can also be used as like a convertible type of token as well. So to the question of like, is it supposed to be the leading framework? I would assume that is the process, but you can also see that there is very much consensus in terms of wanting to have interoperability across all the other chains, maybe Ethereum, Solana that was launched yesterday. And I think to your question, your second part of the question, which is like, hey, should I use a pre-existing network versus just creating my own? I think one of the issues of creating your own is that, and is that you don't have two things. Number one, the same network effect of all the other tokens that would need to essentially be able to pair with each other. You would lack the marketplaces that is needed for having some sort of throughput of that token itself. Those are just some thoughts. Yeah, I think that if you had, please.
Oh no.
I think there's a guy right in front of the
Who
yeah that guy.
Okay, go ahead. No, that's a good question. I think just for the sake of decentralization and like having complete ownership of the token, essentially is I think the most higher concern. Like I think taking into account people want to know that whatever they're building, they're going to have control over the whole platform. You know, like, and Rally Hat takes no fees on social tokens and utilizing whatever activity on the front. So like, I think just as we help more people educate on the tools and the resources that we that help creators understand the utility, but more importantly, the ownership aspect for the developers, then that I think just getting that message more pointed across is going to be is I think as the understanding of NFTs have finally like got through with community ownership, I think being able to translate that in the social token realm is going to be the next step to help bridge more people to encourage development on that front. I think that's it. Okay. Thanks so much, guys.